Amber Skye is a professional and group coach, dance instructor, and healer. She specializes in body confidence, radical self acceptance, and intra and interpersonal connections. Amber hosts a body positive dance program that includes meditation as well as outward self expression. She's currently creating a safe space to foster community for these delicate discussions. So, Amber is here today to talk about body confidence. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, thank you, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, w- tell me, because everybody's got a different kind of perspective on this, what does body positivity mean to you?
So, I like to use the word body positivity because it's the one that's kind of caught on for everybody. It's the buzzword, it's the buzz phrase. Um, for me, it means radical acceptance of your body and where you are right now and how it's functioning in space.
Mm,
What I would really like to say is body liberation, but
mm,
I feel like body positivity is the one that kind of stuck. So, that's what that means to me is we're looking at our bodies and seeing the things that it can do, not focusing on what we can't do or focusing on, things that are inevitable that are going to happen as we age, that are beyond our control, and being able to
mhm,
look at the things that we still can do, whether that means that you've had babies, or you've dealt with some kind of illness or disease, or
mhm.
you've ended up with some kind of assistive device like a wheelchair. My goal is to be able to help you feel comfortable in your body and find those positive aspects and focus on what it can do and how we can move forward from there.
Okay. So you said you would like to say body what? Liberation? Is that what you
Body
said?
liberation, yeah,
All
just
right.
complete like liberation from the confines of feeling tied down by this meat vehicle that we have here on earth. So
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much, to break down. Like I've been doing work with self for a long time now, and I just crossed the bridge into 50 about a year ago, and I've had 3 kids, and it's like, so I'm looking at the next in my aging process, and I'm still breaking down things from my childhood that I didn't even really realize that were still affecting me, and that
yeah.
culturally and familially and in general, there's just so many messages, about our looks and the expectations and, societal norms and all those things. I mean, it's like a mine, right?
Right, absolutely. And it feels like, even though I've done so much work on myself, it's like it's never ending. Because our
Mhm.
bodies and keep changing. It's just never ending. And yeah, you're gonna uproot stuff and go, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that in 20 or 30 years. And
Mhm.
maybe there's a little lock there with a key that like I could unlock something else to just, yeah, be able to propel myself forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. So tell me how all of this started for you.
Oh wow. Well, okay, so I feel like I need to kind of give a little context for me, like in my own childhood. Um, so just, complete transparency. My mother is undiagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. I've had multiple therapists tell me that, which just helped me make sense of like my world and like how I grew up. And
Yeah.
for me, body image played a huge role into that mother daughter dynamic, and kind
Mm.
of that foundation for and I can look at it now, and I've forgiven her because she dealt with the exact same things. She just didn't know how to deal with them, and then just ended up projecting it onto like me and probably my sister. But I feel like I got the most of it. I was the oldest, so there was a lot of expectations for me to be perfect, for me to have this ideal body that she could never have. And one of the things I will never forget that she said to me that just really stuck with me, was, Amber, you're beautiful, but if you could just lose 10 pounds, you'd be gorgeous. So I
Mm.
always felt like I was always shy of perfection.
Yeah.
And I was put on diets. I was put into Weight Watchers when I was 14, even though I was only like a size 10, and I was full of muscle on the dance team and running and everything. It was like I was just never good enough. So that's how I grew up. And gosh, up until I was in my early 30s, so like maybe 7 or so years ago, um, did I really start to really not how do I like not even a 180 on my thinking, just a completely new slate of how to look at myself and my body. And
Beautiful. Yeah.
because I was working out, I did boxing, I did MMA fitness, I was running in my 20s after I had dealt with depression and gaining a lot of weight. Um, when I got back and I got active again, and I was like trying to take control of my body again, it was because I wanted to lose the weight, because I wanted to look this perfect way, right? The
Oh.
intention was, I'm finally going to make this work. I'm finally going to get it right, right? And then I was in dance and I started getting into yoga, these more healing movements.
Mhm.
And I was surrounding myself with people who had a mindset, of acceptance, and it felt I want to cry. Like, it felt so different to me because I had had that in my life before,
Yeah.
and it really influenced me, and it made me think about my body and myself in a different way. And it first started this shift. I remember writing myself a note on the mirror, and that's how it really started for me. It was like I was going to reverse all of this. I was going to change these tapes, and I was going to do it from ground zero, and I was going to do it. Nobody else was going to tell me what to do or what my body should look like. I was going to accept myself for who I am. And so really
Mm.
that's how it started. And then it just kind of started morphing from there. And like the videos I would post, I would talk more about body acceptance and about, myself and my struggles and my past. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, I feel like I don't have it. I don't have it all figured out. And I have my days. I have my days,
Mhm.
but I have the tools to be able to know how to work past that and to continue to just love and accept my body and myself. And it's to the point now where it's healed me. Why wouldn't I want to heal other people? So
Yeah, I love that. So, it is kind of like a daily, even sometimes momentary kind of practice to be able
right.
to, completely accept oneself physically, in general. But yeah,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
and I think that a lot of people that are seemingly okay with themselves maybe just bypass like I don't know how I don't know. This is a perception of mine that maybe they just don't pay attention. And so they're fine with themselves because they don't ever look at themselves really, and it's to me like I can totally accept myself if it's not even in my awareness and I'm not even paying attention, right? But when I'm looking, when I'm noticing, then that's when the real work comes in. And breaking down, like you said, your mother, the father, the boyfriend, the whatever from a long time ago, plus this ongoing cultural message of we're just never good enough, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and now that's gone even further, I think, in the culture to where now there's this, you know, body ideal that's not even a real body ideal. It's a body ideal that's been achieved through plastic surgery and fillers and that alone, and so it's not
Right.
even a realistic ideal for like 99% of
Right.
the population.
Well, and that's the thing is like, we've had there's been more acceptance to curvier body types, I feel like, especially in the last 5 to 10 years.
Hmm.
When I was growing up, I was, 18, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, those were like the ideal body image. And I say those too because I was a dancer then. So like that was like what you were supposed to look like. And my body, even if I was teeny tiny, my body would not look like theirs. I hold my
Mhm.
weight differently. I have bigger boobs. There's just so many factors. I have shorter arms. Like there's so many factors that people like, that they'll criticize themselves about, but that we have absolutely no control over. Yeah, I guess you
Yeah.
could get like plastic surgery to maybe elongate your arms and I could become this beautiful, ballerina with long arms and long legs. But like that just seems unnecessary and almost impossible. So there's
Yeah.
just certain things we have to accept. Like this is my body type. Now in the last like 5 to 10 years, we've seen, it go from like I'll say like in the 80s, for instance, it was like big boobs and then little butt, little, tiny waist. And then in the 90s, it was like, well, let's just make everything smaller. And then now all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, now, fat booties are in and these big hips are in. And it's like, well, that's great. And I'm glad that we're finally to the point where we can accept that kind of stuff. But the problem is like you said, culturally, societally, like it's still somebody else's image of what should be and the ideal.
Yeah.
And when we can finally get to a place that we say like, there are literally like, as many different body types as there are people on the earth, why can't they all just be okay? We don't even have to
Right.
like say like, well, they're all wonderful and they're all great, but like, okay, we can look at it that way. And I want you to feel that way about yourself, but sometimes okay is just okay. Like they're all acceptable, and I don't think that I think we're slowly getting there, but we've still got a lot of work. We still got a long way to go as far as
Yeah.
society projecting their ideal on women's bodies.
Yeah. And I kind of never really felt like I fit in. That's part of my story, right? And so back in the late 80s, early 90s with the big hair and stuff, and my hair is naturally curly and just wouldn't achieve the height, right? And for
Right,
whatever reason.
right.
And so very quickly I had to be like, that's not for me. Oh well. And I'm gonna rock what I've got, right? And I have slightly stronger features and rock what you got and like let's do
Yeah.
this. Okay. And then like this philosophy and I've really tried to instill that in my kids, but there's still all kinds of, you know, inadvertent pressure, I guess, to be healthy and whatever. And it's like identifying those things as they come up is like huge. Like, so I'm curious if you have any like tips to help people like identify what some of their body stories are so that they can maybe become a bit more accepting.
That's a great question. I mean, I guess like for me, it really starts. You said those body stories, and that makes me think of like, when we have thoughts going through our head, whatever those thoughts are, that monkey mind that just doesn't want to stop. Um, that's where it starts. And then it's when we start to apply that identifying with that those thoughts that we create this story like you said. So for
Mm.
me it's catching it in the moment. Like you're just walking through your house and maybe you happen to walk past a mirror, or maybe you don't, maybe you haven't even looked in the mirror all day, but maybe you bump into something. Well, then that makes you think, oh wow, maybe I've put on some weight. Oh, this and this and this. Oh, I should get to this and blah blah blah. And it's like it just starts devolving. And so I guess my best tip to really get it like at the root is to start to recognize when that's happening, like in the moment, like being like the observer of your own thoughts and being able to
Mm.
catch yourself. And if you do look at yourself in the mirror, like that first thought of like, oh God, I look so haggard and tired. Okay, maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. Maybe you do have bags under your eyes. Maybe, you're breaking out a little bit. Maybe your skin's a little red. Maybe you, like me, you slept kind of funky and you've got like this weird puffy eye and wrinkles on the side of your face. But like those things will go away. That, eventually, like, you take care of your own body and do well for yourself. I'm sorry, my cats are like over here playing with something. Then they're gonna knock it off. Um, that you'll, you'll. I'm sorry, I get so distracted so easily. Um,
Noticing
um,
those stories,
sorry.
being in the present. Yeah.
Yes, being in the present and being able to catch yourself in those moments.
Yeah.
And I'm changing those tapes, like purposefully staring at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself, you know, something that maybe you don't believe right now. Maybe
Mm.
you don't believe, maybe this, you don't believe that you're beautiful, and you've internalized that message. So the first thing you say to yourself when you look in the mirror is something derogatory or negative about yourself. Try to beat it to the punch by
Mm.
telling yourself something. And I don't care. This is the best thing. Like, I don't care if it starts with one tooth. If you have to look in the mirror and you're like, I can't find anything I love about myself, start with that one tooth and go, you know what? That's a nice tooth. I've been
Mm.
cleaning it. It looks good. It's nice and straight. Okay,
Mhm.
great. We're going to start there. And then maybe eventually that evolves into your smile, and then that evolves into this. And I feel like for me, you start small and you're catching those small moments, then they start to kind of snowball, and then you'll see a bigger impact on your life. So getting in touch with those body stories, like you said, like, I feel like if you can catch that in the moment and start to reverse it, it will, for me, it started to like reveal itself, like, well, wait a minute, why was I talking to myself so badly before? Well, where did that come from, that I thought that I had to have, I don't know, whatever it is, that I had to have, perfect breasts by 40, or that I, shouldn't have any weight on my belly. Where did that come from? And starting to break that,
Mm.
because you're able to look at it and say, I was really treating myself terribly. So
Yeah.
where did that come from, now that I can look at it as an observer and notice that there's a different way to look at myself? Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm. Yeah. I had a client who was actually a very attractive gentleman. Um, he went through a really rough time in his relationship, and we did the mirror thing, where I had him look in the mirror and try and find that one thing, and he's like, I couldn't find anything. I was like, really? Like, not even not even your eyes? And he's like, well, my eyes are negative, 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 negative. And I'm like, wait a second. Not one thing about your eyes, whether it be the shape or the color or whatever. He found that one thing. And then I'm like, okay, now what? Take that one
Mhm.
thing and build on it. And it was just astounding to me that this gentleman who had very good like very culturally whatever, very nice features, features of an actor even,
Mhm.
and but his story just built snowballed on itself. His story as a child of having to wear husky jeans
Mm.
because they were labeled that way, and so he took on that label, and then it just perpetuated, and so it became like this crap ball of negative self-talk about himself, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Dude, go look in the mirror." Like, I'm
Right.
hoping I'm hoping you'll start seeing some of these things that are actually true about you and not what you feel about yourself.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you made me think of something, and I have you ever listened to or read Eckhart Tolle?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's something that he says about like the thoughts like running away from you. Like, think of it like a dog, in a fenced yard. And if you can catch that dog, like as soon as it runs out of the gate, the quicker you can get the dog and call him back, being kind, like those kind words to yourself, and bringing the dog back into the fence. And then, you're never going to stop the dog from wanting to try to leave the fence. That's how I like to
Mhm.
look at thoughts. But
Mm.
sometimes, and when you're not aware of it, you're not even aware that there is a dog, this monkey mind just running away happening. The dogs ran away, and some people, it runs off into the woods, and there's missing posters everywhere, and nobody
Yeah.
knows where the dog is. It's so far and so deep, and so far gone, that it's like they don't even realize that's been happening the whole time, and that there's something deeper going on there, and that, yeah, you just been, and for a lot of people, you were handed this in childhood. Some people grow up
Yeah.
with good parents and then they get inundated by, society as they, especially women, when we enter, adolescence and then in the workforce, you know, but if you were handed it to you at birth, it's like what can you do? You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
other than the work. Just keep digging and keep trying to find where the root of that is for yourself, because it's hard when you don't feel comfortable in the one thing you've got on this earth to move around in. I mean, I can look at things in my house and go, I don't like that, I don't like that, okay, I'm going to get rid of that or whatever. This is it. There's no
Yeah, right.
changing it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for a lot of people
Yeah.
to accept. It's hard to accept.
I think I loved the analogy of the dog. Like, that's just so perfect because, we don't recognize that, it's getting ready to run away on us. And if the sooner we call it back, the better. And because next thing you know, it's like the beagle running through the woods for 24 hours because she just doesn't know how, she's just having too much fun out there and telling her stories
Right.
to the deer, so I
Right.
have an actual beagle neighbor that's done that. But these stories can get away from us, and it's really easy to play into them and to just let them take us on a trip. And we kind of infer and then create meaning based on the slightest things. Someone looks at us some kind of way, oh well, then they must think or believe this about me or whatever. And
Right.
not that that's matters, but to our inner wounding it does.
Right.
So yeah, I love the idea of like catching the story before it gets too far out the yard, and then looking at yourself and trying to find that one thing that you can validate or affirm, and then building from there. Do you have anything else that might help people, like, if they're feeling just like absolute crap about what they're experiencing right now, like what's a good place for them to start? Like what can they do?
I mean, the first thing when you said like that they, like that they're feeling this right now, like the first thing I thought was, that this moment will pass.
Hmm.
And like, so I have PMDD, premenstrual dysphoria disorder, and I've, since I got diagnosed, I've got on medication. I know like when to manage those things. And for people who don't know what that is, it's not just like PMS, like where it's like, premenstrual syndrome where you get a little crabby, maybe, you're feeling kind of, off, your moods are swinging or something. This is like, PMDD is like suicide ideation and extreme
Mm.
irritability and debilitating cramps. And I didn't even know I was dealing with that, until a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago. But with that, it's like it's like I know it now. So when it pops up and when I know it's going to pop up in my brain and I get those messages that say things, just these awful things about myself and about my brain, which is part of my body, and about my body
Mhm.
itself, I have to kind of stop and say, you know, this is temporary. This isn't true. I know that this isn't true. And this is going to pass. And I'm just going to let it say what it needs to say for now. But I'm not going to identify it. I'm not going to believe it because I know I look hot in that dress. So I'm not going to try it today
Yeah.
because I know if I look in the mirror with that dress on today, I'm not going to like myself. But I know if I just let this day pass, or whatever it is, if you're having a bad day or maybe somebody triggered you, in some way, something that they said that maybe was just, even if somebody said it and they weren't trying to hurt you, but it's still, like you said, it wounded you and you're
Mhm.
sitting with that and then you're ruminating about it. Don't don't put any extra pressure on yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let it try to
Mm.
pass and just remember that you don't have to believe it. You don't have to
Yeah.
believe whatever the person or society or yourself is trying to tell you, that you can just let it pass and go, okay, I know I'll probably feel better about this tomorrow after I've had a good night's sleep, or this PMDD day has passed for me, or whatever the case is for you, and then treat yourself to something nice where you go, okay, I'm going to try this dress on now because I'm feeling better
Yeah.
about myself. And then it's like instant boost. But I feel like when you do those things and you try to like, it's almost like self-flagellation. Like you're already
Mhm.
not feeling good about yourself. Maybe today's not the best day to try to go try on, your bridesmaid's dress or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? Maybe give
Right.
it a day and let your
Yeah,
emotions
yeah.
kind of process, and then do something nice for yourself, and you'll have a different perspective on yourself when you're not in that thinking mind.
And I love how you just kinda, like, low key gave us all permission to, like, we don't have to in that moment of feeling all the shit, right? We don't have to go and try and fix ourselves. We can just
Right.
just notice it will pass, and then when it passes, we can do something restorative or repair, or whatever, do some affirming then. We in the middle of it, sometimes it's just too hard to try
Right.
and do anything other than okay, this is gonna pass,
Yeah,
like
and I'm just sitting there on my couch, like watching
right.
something, that's gonna make me kind of get me out of my mind, and maybe I just need to do that for the evening, and then I'll be okay
Yeah,
tomorrow. It's just, yeah, like you
right.
said, give yourself permission to just not judging yourself, which is
Yeah,
what we do to our bodies, especially as women in this society. It's all about like judging yourself and just whew, that body liberation, just let go of that and just let yourself
yeah.
be. Just let yourself be in your body for a minute, whatever you're feeling.
It's funny the layers of judgment that we bring in because, "Oh, I'm judging myself," and then I'm judging myself for judging myself because I shouldn't be doing that,
Right.
And then it's just like I have a friend that used to say, "And I've got out the tiny little hammers now, and I'm beating myself with the tiny little hammers," and it's like,
Yeah.
Put the
Yeah.
hammers down, babe. It's okay." Like, if you're already feeling like crap, don't make yourself feel worse by adding the blame, the shame, the whatever for not feeling perfect or feeling like you can go and affirm
Mhm.
your way out of it or anything like that. Because
Yeah.
we're just straight up humans. And sometimes that just doesn't help in the moment. So I love that, just be with it, do what you gotta do to get through it, and then maybe
Mhm.
tomorrow or later on, we can tackle that. And I also love how you were like, "Hey, you remember that dress made me feel fantastic. I felt sexy, I felt great." Everybody's got that one thing that if
Mhm.
it's whether it be underwear or a pair of shoes or necklace or something, everybody's
Yeah.
got that one thing where I feel hot in that,
Mhm.
and that can really, like, even temporarily give us that little boost, that little swagger,
Right.
you know? And
And even though that's materialistic, like this necklace, I've been really into this necklace for the last few days, and it makes me feel cute. But like I know it's not me. So those things like, getting your nails done, getting your hair done, all those things are meant to make you feel good about yourself, and they should, and you should be able to do those things for yourself. But they're not, you can't use them as band-aids either to
yeah,
cover up everything. So
yeah.
like you said, understand like that pair of shoes, my dock platforms make me feel really confident. That dress makes me feel really sexy. Okay, great. Now why? How can you take
Mhm.
that further and feel that all the time, that feeling about yourself, because it really is about you. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not about the shoes, it's not about the dress. It's about it coming from here, and
How can we
radiating.
build on that? Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, this build on that superficial temporary boost. How can we why does it make me feel that way? Which is a great reflective question that you brought up. Like, why is this helping me feel this way? And then how else can I feed that? How else can
Yeah.
I, honor that in me and on a deeper level? Yeah, because I mean, you know, those beautiful undergarments, they're gonna eventually, like, go away or not fit or just need to be
Mhm.
replaced and, but the internal work is really, the juice.
Yeah, and you said, you're talking about like the material things going away, and then, to really break it down, I mean, our bodies too. I mean, we're literally, like kind of wasting away as we get older every single year. I mean, that's just what's supposed to happen, right? Even though we don't want it to
Yeah.
happen, that's what's going to happen. And um and how we take care of ourselves and genetics, everything plays a factor into that. So, but when you were saying that, like, because that's why for me, it's like coming down to the bare bones of what it means to be in our bodies and what it means to feel comfortable and confident in our bodies. So my brother, this was, oh goodness, what is it, 2023 now? uh so Lord, 16 years ago. Stop. Okay, 16 years ago, my brother had a car accident. He was 18. And long story short, it left him with traumatic brain injury and diffuse axonal. Diffuse axonal is where you have shearing on the brain, which means it wasn't just blunt force trauma. So the neurons in his brain never wanted to fully heal.
Mm.
So that's another big part of my body acceptance journey, was watching him, because he he had no control over his body. He was in a minimally conscious state for 12 years.
Wow.
And he had no control over his body, no say so, no voice, no no autonomy over his own life. Um, and to be able to look at somebody like him, and I've worked with kids like him too when I was teaching, where you know what, and I don't want to say this to, I don't want to shame anybody, but like, when somebody says, they're like, their whole day is ruined because they had a bad hair day. I mean, if you want to complain a little
Mm.
bit and go, oh, my hair's not doing what it wants to today, okay, let it go, whatever. But when I see people like coming, like just like it just ruins their whole day or their whole life because of something so simple like that. And I've talked to them about this with my students in my body positive class, where I've told the story about my brother, and I say, it really just comes down to like we can get really simple here. What are you grateful for about your body? And I have them name something that they're grateful for. I'm like, you're breathing. You
Yeah.
are breathing. You can see things. Like my brother had 3% vision, so he could only see like black and white, like shapes and shadows. And he
Wow.
had lost 90% hearing in one ear. No, sorry, 90% hearing in the ear that hit the tree. And then he had, no, I'm screwing this up. I'm sorry. He had 10% hearing in the ear that hit the tree. And then he had like another 40% hearing in one ear. So I mean,
Mm.
he really didn't even have all of his senses. So just being able to sit and go, I can feel the sunshine. I can go outside. I can breathe. I can see the trees. I can appreciate the colors in the world.
Mhm.
Such
Mhm.
simple things that we just don't, that we take for granted, that come back to what our bodies can do. I have eyes
Yeah.
to see, I have ears to hear, I have hands to touch. I have what control I do have over my body. When I'm dancing, I have control over my own body, and nobody can
Yeah.
tell me how to, especially if I'm in private, nobody can tell me how to move my body and how to dance. So being really breaking it down to the bare minimum and being
Yeah.
appreciative of those things really helps you flip your perspective too on how you see yourself, and
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. I particularly love flipping the script on myself, and like, okay, well, what has she done this thing that I'm in, like, what what have these legs carried me through?
Yeah.
And, what have my arms embraced? And, like looking at it from that perspective too, because I mean, gonna be 51, skin's going south. I ain't got no control over that. I don't plan on having any surgeries. It's like, it
Yep.
is what it is,
Right.
and I'm still like blessed because my body has been able to carry me through my entire life in a
Yeah.
way that, you know, is astounding, you
Yeah.
know. And the things that we've been through together, terrible and beautiful, wow, and really looking at her, this as a friend, as a cherished one, is pretty
Mhm.
pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And kind of shifting the mood just a little bit, you know, like you said, looking at it like as a friend and somebody to cherish, you can even take it a step further, and like, I mean, I love looking at myself in the mirror sometimes and just appreciating, like, wow, oh my God, like they're really sitting nice today, or wow, my God, I never noticed how bubbly my butt is. Oh my God. And like put on some really cute underwear, just,
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah,
seriously, like even if you're
yeah.
by yourself, don't feel silly because that's like where it starts, and really loving and nourishing yourself. And, okay, go sign up for that, that subscription to the, lingerie company and get yourself something nice every month. If it makes you feel good, yeah, absolutely. Treat yourself well. This is your friend. This is your best buddy. Like this is what we've got,
Mhm.
So treat it
Yeah,
well, in all ways.
yeah. I love it. So if you had something that you just wanted to tell everybody about their bodies, what would it be?
They're really amazing when you think about it. They're pretty
Yeah.
amazing, all the things that we can do. I mean, just the fact that I can wake up every morning and like my heart's still beating, and you know, just I mean, when you can look at some of the crazy extreme things that people can do with their bodies, gymnasts and athletes and, contortionists. I mean, you're just like, and just like the even down to like the little things, it's just pretty amazing what our bodies are capable of, and how, I mean, and even just from a healing aspect, and how, men the mental and the physical are so connected, and people are really starting to wake up to that and go, well, the reason why my stomach was hurting every day was because I kept ruminating about whatever, da 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 da, and I'm not saying
Mhm.
that every stomach issue or every physical ailment comes back to that, but gosh, we're
Right.
starting to learn that it plays a huge part, so yeah, yeah, our bodies are amazing, and they can heal themselves. And it's like, do you want, you can either just self-destruct, or you can lift yourself up, and if you lift yourself up, man, you can do some pretty awesome things in the world.
So it all just starts here. Catch that dog before it runs out the gate.
Yeah, shut that gate,
Catch
yeah,
those
call
stories
her
before
back.
they get going.
Get her
Um,
some nice treats, love on her,
so
and let her know, and just let it go, let the thoughts pass like little clouds, and don't believe what other people told you about your body. Don't believe it.
yeah. I use journaling as part of my practice, and for my clients, it's been
Yes.
pretty huge on my journey. And so, like, when I bump against something like that, writing it down helps me to dive into like the root and why do I feel this way and where'd that come from and all that stuff. And then what do I need? I can build on that. But yeah,
Yeah, I have my students in the body positive class. We start out like journaling, just getting like a brain dump, just getting it out, before we start sharing and talking about like the specific topic, and all that. So yeah, absolutely. Journaling is wonderful.
So in your groups, it sounds like you talk about what you're facing in terms of, your confidence and your body image and stuff.
Yeah,
That
I've had one of my students. She had a double mastectomy. She's had to deal with, cancer. I've had trans students who are going through, huge transformation in their lives. Just people dealing with, dealing with aging, dealing with just again accepting their bodies the way they've always been. We can get pretty deep. I mean. Like I'm getting ready to get everything online, and so that structure is going to look slightly different, and I think we'll be able to get even deeper, because the way I was running it before was like, just like the 1 hour, and we were focused mostly on like getting the choreo out. But the way I kind of want to do it now is going to shift it in a slightly different direction. But I'd like to, yeah, just keep those conversations open and going, because
yeah.
I think it's important, um, yes, to get to the root for yourself, but to hear it from other people and to go, oh,
Yeah.
well, you deal with that too? Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't feel so crazy anymore. Like
Right.
that's the epiphanies
Yeah.
I had when I hear other people share their stories. So yeah, just keeping it open, and in a safe, non-judgmental place.
I think there's just so much power to being able to, share these vulnerabilities and these things that we typically want to hide. Well, first of all, if you're sharing it with someone, then you've just eradicated shame.
Yeah.
and that's like the biggest block we all face and don't realize it, and so, sharing it in the group, it's like that and then having that support not only of a facilitator, but of the additional members of the group. It's just really super powerful, because if we're talking crap about ourselves, who can see the positive in us in that moment? Well, the facilitator and our
Right.
people, right? Like
Right.
they're the ones that can work us through anything. So I
Yeah.
think that's just really super powerful. I really love that you're doing that.
Thank you. And at the end of our class too, we always end it with like a non physical compliment.
Mm,
And
nice.
the goal isn't about giving the compliment to each other, because we'll just kind of going around, so everybody's talking to and giving a compliment to someone different than they did say the week before. But it's in the thank you. I said it's
Mm,
it's it's not about giving the compliment. The goal here for this exercise is for you to be able to accept the compliment and be able to show gratitude for that and not apologize or make some excuse, because especially as women, it's like, oh, I love your dress. And you go, oh, yeah, well, I mean, I've had it for like 5 years. I mean, it's
right.
starting to
Yeah.
rip here. And, I got this stain over here. It's like, stop. Just say
Yeah.
thank you. The person's
Right.
trying to give you a blessing, like whatever
Yeah.
that is, or so yeah, just focusing on the gratitude and because you don't want to block somebody, you don't want to block your own blessings, and you don't. It's almost like an insult to the other person when somebody gives
Yes.
you a compliment
Yeah.
and you start making excuses and start talking negatively about yourself. You're like, well, did not. I mean, not that my opinion matters, but like I would like you to be able to see yourself in a different way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm trying to give that to you.
But low key, why does my opinion not matter? Yeah, also, yeah. But yeah, I think and this is something that I actually do talk about a lot. And like when we don't allow people to give to us, either we shoot
Yes.
down their compliments or play it down or whatever, or we don't tell people when we need something, or if they try to give us something to fill that need, and we're like, oh no, I got it, or
Mhm.
so sometimes we block it because we don't want to be seen vulnerable or incompetent or anything like that,
Right.
um, or somehow less than perfect. But we're blocking that love, and I always liken it to like, imagine you feel you're terribly in love with this person and you care and you want to give and you want to support and you want to do these things, and they say no, and then what do you do with that love? You're just like walking around and I got no place, what am I
Right.
going to do with this love that I was getting ready to hand to you?
Right.
So being conscientious of that on the receiving end of like, are we letting ourselves be loved? Are we letting
Yeah.
ourselves have that, and letting them give,
Yeah.
because I know it feels like crap when my love gets shot down. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. The thank yous, and like breathe and receive, just breathe and receive, because sometimes, especially people that have been criticized, bullied, they have a much harder time. That defense isn't just on feedback, it's on everything. And so we want to like block it off, but it's like breathe, be present, receive, you know.
Mhm. You're
Yeah.
worthy of it. Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah.
bullied by my own family and then bullied by people in school. And so for me, like when I used to do that kind of stuff and make those excuses or immediately like, oh, well, I mean, I haven't, but your makeup looks nice today. Yeah, but I haven't slept well lately. It's like when I would say stuff like that, it was like, that's because I always felt like I had to have some kind of defense. Like, oh, you don't
Mhm.
like, because even though I'm hearing something nice, when you're used to hearing criticism, you're used to hearing negative things about yourself,
Yeah.
it's reflexive to be like defensive and go, oh well, let me give you my reason and let me explain why da 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 da. It's like you don't owe anybody an explanation. Like
Yeah.
you said, just breathe and receive.
And straight up, I walk out my door today and I've got a full face of makeup on that I don't normally have, and people are like, "Wow, you look great." I suffer with that, that trying to receive thing too. Like
Mhm.
there's no one I know of not one person that is completely immune to having body or looks
Right.
issues that they're
Mhm.
working on, you know? So just know that the most perfect models out there are constantly critical of themselves, you know, perfect models. Like everybody's got it. And right?
Right.
So just none of us are alone in this, and we don't have to be. And look for, you know, some support, look for a group, look for a facilitator like Amber, look for people who will help you love yourself more without those judgments, you
Mhm.
know, and glow you up in a real way, in a deep way, you know, like you were saying that the even the non-physical, like it's so huge to have non-physical compliments because this is not necessarily a part of our culture, you
Right.
know. We default to, you know, beauty standards and whatever, and it's like, oh, but, you know, this conversation has lit something inside me. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
exactly, like or materialistic. Like, if you compliment somebody on their dress, it's still it's just an extension of them. It's not them. So yeah, like
Mhm.
you said, giving those non-physical compliments, it's like sometimes I think it can throw people off, like we're not so I worked in applied behavior analysis when I was teaching, and when you give somebody I should say in this society everything is we're so used to um, negative feedback. People only want to react to things when something bad happens. People forget
Mhm.
to like back up the good things when they happen. So like parents, for instance, even well-meaning parents, it's like you might not notice your kid, maybe you're busy, you're making dinner, da, da, da. You only notice them all of a sudden when they're drawing with crayons on the wall. You're like, oh my gosh, don't do
Yeah,
that.
right.
But
Yeah.
when they put their clothes in the hamper, you forgot to say something. You know what I mean? It's like we forget to
Yeah.
to to acknowledge the good. So how can we see that in ourselves if societally we're not used to giving that kind of feedback and those kind of compliments just on something so simple? Wow, I really, when you walk in the room, you really light up the room, and I love the energy you bring to the group. Wow. I mean, what a compliment, but so when my students would do that to each other, I mean, there were people hugging each other, almost crying. I mean, it's like, because
Mhm.
people just aren't used to hearing that stuff. It's so
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's just an amazing experience, it sounds like. Like, yeah,
It's fun. Yeah.
absolutely. Amber, this has been really fantastic. I want to ask you, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about body confidence and positivity and even body liberation?
Just, yeah, just let yourself be. Just,
Mhm.
allow yourself to move freely through the world. And just know that you have that inner badass inside of you. Know that confidence is inside of you, and it's your work to kind of unwrap that present, if you will, just little bit
Mm,
by little bit. Like I said, start with that one tooth, put on those pair of shoes, something that's going to make you just feel comfortable in your own body so you can unwrap that confidence gift. And maybe it'll take you a few months, maybe it'll take you years, maybe it'll take you a lifetime, but as long as you're progressing, you're getting there, and just feeling every day like letting yourself just be in your body, you'll get there eventually. It's just
I
a little
love
bit,
that.
but
Yeah, it reminds me of you know, we have these, you know, memories, our physical memories, right? And as much as our bodies will remember, oh, that time I tweaked my back, or that other time when, you know, I felt small and hidden, our bodies also remember when they feel great, when they do feel liberated, when they feel free and without judgment. Like, you know, if we can reflect on those times and bring them to mind intentionally, that will also help with this process, I think. You
absolutely.
know, yeah, Awesome, awesome. So tell people where they can find you, Amber.
So you can find me at amberskye.net. I am also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So I will be, yeah, just look for some cool like videos, affirmations to help get you through the day, and come join me in one of my classes, and we'll have some fun.
Awesome. And catch her when she performs because she's a fantastic performer.
Thank you.
Really fantastic performer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amber, for being here and sharing your story and your perspectives. I think that they're just really valuable. I mean, we all experience this, and having another layer of facilitation and assistance and guidance really just helps.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. Really, I really appreciate it, and it's an honor to be part of the summit.
Yay.